Reading 40 books in a year and remembering almost nothing from them. Reading 5 and rebuilding your work around them. The difference is not speed and not discipline. The difference is that ordinary reading and learning from a book are two completely different processes. Most people do the first one and think they are doing the second. Today we will look at the method of a Nobel laureate in physics who read not to finish the book, but to rebuild it inside his own head. And why ordinary reading, even the most diligent kind, teaches you almost nothing. If you read the way they taught us in school, from page 1 to the last page, at an even pace, sometimes going back to a passage you liked, sometimes underlining a phrase with a marker, you have a long list of books in your head right now from which almost nothing remains. 1 month after finishing a book, the average person remembers about 10% of its contents. After a year, just a few percent. This is not because your memory is bad. It is because what you were doing was never designed for retention. On top of this comes the simple biology of memory. Back at the end of the 19th century in Germany, the first systematic experiment on how the brain forgets was carried out. The result was called the forgetting curve. About 40% of what you have just read disappears within 20 minutes. After 1 day, around 2/3 is gone. After a week, almost everything except a few familiar fragments. This curve has been replicated dozens of times over the past 120 years. It works for everyone. And the only way to outsmart it is not rereading, but actively returning to the material. This matters because almost every studying technique we are taught in school works against this curve, not with it. In the psychology of learning, this gap between the feeling of understanding and the actual knowledge has a name. It is called the fluency illusion. When you reread a chapter for the second time, the text becomes more familiar. Your eyes move more easily. Words are recognized faster. And the brain mistakes that feeling of ease for understanding. You close the book convinced that you have grasped it. In reality, you have only gotten used to the letters. When you are asked to retell the main idea a week later, you discover there is nothing inside. A large review from 2013, published in the journal Psychological Science in the public interest, analyzed 10 of the most popular study techniques. Rereading, underlining, highlighting, and ordinary note-taking received the lowest usefulness rating. Not because they cause harm, but because they barely produce any long-term effect. They do, however, generate a strong feeling that you are learning. This is the central trap. The most pleasant ways of working with a book are the least productive. And the opposite is also true. What makes learning real is almost always uncomfortable. You have to stop, forget, get confused, make mistakes. If everything inside your head is calm and easy, no learning is taking place. Speed reading, by the way, does not help here either. A large review from 2016 in the same journal showed it directly. Trying to push reading speed from the normal 250 words per minute up to 500 or higher inevitably hurts comprehension. The eyes can jump faster, but the brain cannot connect the new with the old in time. And connection is the actual job of reading. Without it, only familiar letters remain on the page. Now to a different approach. The same Nobel laureate in physics mentioned at the beginning formulated his method roughly like this. If you cannot explain an idea in plain words, the way you would explain it to a freshman or even to a child, then you do not understand it. Understanding is not text recognition. Understanding is the ability to rebuild someone else's thought on your own without peeking. The method consisted of 4 steps, and it does not matter what you are studying: physics, economics, management theory, or a psychology book. Step 1. Choose a concept. Step 2. Try to explain it out loud or in writing using simple language, without jargon. Step 3. Wherever you stumble, lose the thread, or start speaking in vague generalities, that is where the gap in your understanding lies. Step 4. Go back to the source, find the answer, simplify again. This is not an intellectual trick. It is diagnostics. You are not trying to memorize. You are trying to detect where there is no understanding. And it is a fundamentally different mode of working with a text. In ordinary reading, you move forward across the page. Here you do the opposite. You step out of the text and try to reconstruct it without prompts. There is a deep paradox in this. Ordinary reading is like jogging. The main thing is to keep the pace. This method is like taking apart a complex machine. You stopped, unscrewed something, looked inside, tried to put it back together. Where it does not fit back together, that is the gap. And you do not move forward until you have fixed it. Over the past 80 years, psychology has tested this idea from every possible angle. And almost every component turned out to be the strongest known way to learn. The most large-scale confirmation came from work on the testing effect. In 2008, the journal Science published a study that became a classic. Students were divided into 4 groups and asked to memorize foreign vocabulary words. One group simply studied. The second studied and tested themselves. The third, after correctly producing a word once, kept only restudying. The fourth kept only testing. A week later, their long-term memory was checked. The result destroyed common sense. Extra studying after the material had been learned produced almost nothing. Extra self-testing produced a large effect. Those who kept testing themselves remembered roughly 3 times more than those who simply reread. About 80% against just over 30, with equal time spent on the work. And what is important? The students' own assessment of how well they knew the material had almost nothing to do with their actual memory. Those who only reread felt they had learned better. In reality, they had learned worse. This is exactly that gap between feeling and reality. Testing, meaning the attempt to retrieve material from memory rather than checking it against the source, forces the brain to work. Rereading does not. The Nobel laureate's method is, in essence, built-in self-testing. You close the book, you try to reproduce the idea. If it works, it is learned. If not, you have spotted a gap. The second layer of science is the self-explanation effect. In a study at the end of the 80s on physics students, researchers noticed a curious pattern. The ones who solved problems best all did the same thing. They spoke out loud, or to themselves, about what was happening at every step of the solution. Not for others, for themselves. A few years later, psychologists tested this effect on school children reading a biology text. One group was asked to retell the meaning of every sentence in their own words after reading it. Another simply read the text twice. The group that explained things to themselves understood the material significantly more deeply. And the test was not about remembering the wording. It was about applying the ideas to new problems. The third layer is the protégé effect. This phenomenon was discovered long ago and is used in schools today. When a person teaches something to another, even an imaginary child, even a letter to an invisible reader, they themselves start to understand the material better. A study from 2016 showed that people who prepare to take on the role of a teacher use about 1.5 times more metacognitive strategies. These are strategies of thinking about your own thinking. They notice where they do not understand. They actively look for gaps. They do not trust their first impression that they have grasped something. The fourth layer is spaced repetition. If you return to the same material a day later, a week later, a month later, the brain marks it as important and moves it into long-term memory. If you read a chapter once and never return to it, that chapter most likely does not exist in your head a week later. This is the same testing effect, only stretched across time. Retelling a chapter once an hour after reading is weaker than retelling it 3 times, after an hour, after a day, after a week. And here the Nobel laureate's method becomes understandable at the level of the brain. It packs the strongest learning effects into one cycle at once. The testing effect, because you reproduce without prompts. The self-explanation effect, because you translate someone else's thought into your own language. The protégé effect, because you address the explanation to someone who knows nothing about the subject. And all of this easily turns into spaced repetition if you return to the retelling later. For mechanisms in a single loop. This idea has an older lineage too. Back in the 40s of the 20th century, an American philosopher of education proposed thinking of reading as 4 levels stacked on top of each other. The first level is elementary, the ability to recognize letters and words. We are taught this in school. The second level is inspectional, scanning the book for the overall picture. What is inside? What is the structure? Is it worth reading further? The third level is analytical. This is deep reading with questions to the text. What is the author trying to say? How is it being argued? What do I do with this? The fourth level is syntopical. When you read several books on the same topic in parallel, compare them, and form your own opinion that does not match any single author. And here is the key thought. Most people remain stuck at the second level for their entire life. We can read words and run our eyes across a page. But stopping, arguing with the author, asking back, we were never taught any of that. And yet that is exactly how working with a book should look if you actually want to learn something. It is curious that in cultures where reading was a rare privilege, people approached it completely differently. In medieval monastic libraries, there was a practice they called slow reading. A monk would take a short fragment and would not move on until he had chewed through it on 4 levels. What does this mean literally? What does it mean metaphorically? How do I apply it to my life? Where does it lead me? A whole day on a single paragraph. In the Chinese and Japanese classical traditions, there was also a separate practice in which a student read the same text aloud dozens of times until they began to hear the structure of every phrase. Only then did they move on. In these cultures, I read the book meant I absorbed it, not I reached the last page. The modern habit of swallowing dozens of books is a deviation from how people worked with text for thousands of years. The Nobel laureate's method is essentially a way to force yourself onto the 3rd level. You do not allow yourself to skim a page. You stopped, you retold, you found the gap. This is a conversation with the book, not a sprint across the text. Now to how this works for any serious book. The method consists of 4 simple steps that you can start using tonight. Step 1. Do not read the chapter to the end. Or rather, read, but stop yourself at meaningful blocks. 1 paragraph, 2 pages, 1 section, it does not matter. The main thing is that it is a complete thought. Close the book, and only now does what is called learning begin. If you go through the chapter to the end without stopping, you have read it. You have not learned it. Step 2. Explain what you have read as if you were telling it to a child. No jargon. No phrases lifted from the book. In your own words. Out loud is better than silent. If no one is around, explain it to the wall. Better still, write it down. When you write, you cannot hide behind general phrases. On paper, it is immediately visible where you understand and where you are imitating understanding. This is the step where the main thing happens. The brain does real work with the information for the first time. Step 3. Find the gap. This is the most valuable step in the entire method. Wherever you stumbled, started going in circles, used a phrase from the book because you could not put it in your own words. That is where the gap is. Do not paper it over with self-pity. Do not write a margin note about figuring it out later. Write down concretely, I do not understand this here. This is the whole reason the method exists. Ordinary reading hides gaps. This method drags them into the open. Step 4. Go back to the book, but do not reread the entire chapter. Find the specific spot that closes your gap. Reread it, simplify it into your own language, and try to explain it again. Do this until the entire chapter can be retold without stumbling. Only then move forward. A single chapter process this way will teach you more about the topic than 5 chapters read the ordinary way. Not because the method is magical. Because for the first time you have done with the text what the brain considers learning, instead of imitating the process. There is also a 5th step that lifts the result from good to strong. A week later, without opening the book, try to retell the chapter again. Just from memory, on a blank page. What you remember will stay with you for a long time. What you have forgotten, those are the candidates for the next pass. This is where spaced repetition kicks in, and memory locks down the material for a much longer span than any one-time effort can. The method looks slow, and it really is slow. A book that people normally finish in 2 evenings can take a month. But after that month, you will remember more from it than the average person remembers from 100 books read on the run. Reading speed is a fake metric. The real metric is how many ideas you can apply without opening the source. This is one of those cases where the strongest advice sounds almost banal. Do not swallow the book. Stop. Explain it to yourself. Find where you do not understand. Go back to the source. Do this until no gap is left. Half of what psychology knows about learning is packed into this one loop. The other half is closed by time, returning to the material across days and weeks. Reading is not a sprint. Reading is a conversation. And the author of a strong book loses nothing if you spend an hour on a chapter instead of 20 minutes. The one who loses is the person who ran through the chapter in 20 minutes and did not understand a single new idea. This channel is about learning and working methods that are grounded in research. Subscribe if it matters to you to know what actually works in learning and productivity, not just what sounds good. More breakdowns ahead of how the brain really learns.